Next, we're going to call Daniel Chin, Hamilton and District Apartment Association, to come down to the podium. Welcome, Daniel. And as you know, you have 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, you will hear a tone.
Testing. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Mayor, and members of the General Issues Committee. My name is Daniel Chin, President of Hamilton and District Apartment Association. I stand before you today and on behalf of HDAA to share with you a few significant concerns regarding Council's consideration for implementing a municipal land transfer tax. And similar to other respective associations here today, we too have strong opposition on this additional tax. We know that the city has fiscal challenges to address its annual deficits. We know that the city has increasingly complex challenges such as tackling homelessness. But an additional tax is a bad decision, and it's not the resolution. It will hurt Hamiltonians in these challenging and uncertain economic times when many people are struggling with the increasing cost of living. About a decade ago, there were similar discussions wherein the Ontario government ruled against expanding the municipal land transfer tax beyond Toronto borders. In 2014, Altus Group Economic Consulting did a study called Economic Implications of the Municipal Land Transfer Tax in Toronto, and it indicated the economic losses incurred by Toronto in the time the tax was imposed in 2008 until 2013 were a loss of $2.6 billion in economic activity, a loss of 38,278 resale home transactions, and a loss of 15,000 full-time jobs, and a loss of 772 million in wages and salaries. That means a municipal land transfer tax is bad for our economy. It kills jobs, and it will even make the dream of home ownership more difficult. Furthermore, it will not help housing affordability or home buyers. In fact, it will hurt them. It will be more costly for buyers. They will no longer be able to afford. They will go to other municipalities to purchase real estate where there is no such tax. And also, a municipal land transfer tax can indirectly impact rental affordability. It leads to higher purchase costs for landlords when acquiring properties, and these costs will be passed on to tenants through higher rents. Therefore, it will dissuade investors from purchasing rental properties, further constrain supply, and drive up rents. Also, current housing providers are selling, and they are getting out of the business. An additional cost will prevent people buying to rent out their property. Consequently, reduced rental supply will mean more homelessness, more encampments, and more problems. Therefore, unless our city have priorities and policies that focus on more housing and not more taxes, Hamilton will no longer be an affordable and desirable place to live. Lastly, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We need better fiscal management at City Hall. In 2024, our City Auditor General Charles Brown discovered about 1.2 million in arrears and rental losses on municipal properties, which are very unlikely to be recovered. And last November 2024, Councillor Mike Spadafora made a motion to audit how the city is utilizing the 185 million to address the housing and homelessness problem. And Councillor Brad Clark said that he would support a 5 or 10-year audit plan that looks at every single department to look at value for money, and he believes that the auditor would find tremendous amount of savings. Last but not least, there was an article yesterday wherein the Hamilton MPP, Donna Skelly, said, if Hamilton wants more funding from her government, the city should demonstrate how it's spending $158 million it approved in 2024 to combat the crisis. Therefore, we need better fiscal management at City Hall for resolving our annual deficits. And we need more transparency in how our taxpayer dollars are spent. In closing, the municipal land transfer tax is a bad decision and not the resolution. It will not help housing affordability or home buyers, it will hurt them. And lastly, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, and we need better fiscal management at City Hall for resolving our annual deficits. On behalf of HDAA, I strongly urge the mayor and members of General Issues Committee to vote against all consideration for implementing a municipal land transfer tax. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for your time to listening to my delegation today.
Thank you, Daniel. I don't see anyone having questions for you, so I appreciate what you've brought to us today. Thank you, and you may take a seat. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pauls.
Thank you. Sorry, I tried to get on the speakers list. I just wanted to ask Daniel, he's the president of the district president of Hamilton Apartments Association. How long has he had that position?
This would be, through the chair to Councillor Pauls, it will be my second year.
Okay, that's great. And have you seen a change in the last 2 years? Or where were you at before? Did you always live in Hamilton?
Through the chair to Councillor Paul, I have lived in Hamilton since 2014.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And you said you've been the president for the last 2 years. And so have you seen a change from 2 years ago even to now, the pressures of what's happening?
Through the chair to Councillor Paul, when you say pressures with regards to the subject matter today.
Housing and regarding the rent, and you said something about we're killing jobs, we're killing entrepreneurship, we're killing investment. Have you seen it in the last 2 years going down?
Through the chair to Councillor Paul, the city of Hamilton needs to take serious action to improve all situations that are very concerning. And unless we do so, I think the city, we would no longer have a city. So it actually is going down.
And I'm just wondering, for investment and all that, do you see people trying not to invest in Hamilton? If we put this land transfer tax, especially developers, builders, will they invest somewhere else?
Through the chair to Councillor Paul, Hamilton is starting to become very, very unsafe. And I believe there's a delegate later today, Andrew Selman, who would speak about the encampment situation. But it is starting to become very unsafe where our public parks are becoming very dangerous. But investors are selling their properties. The small mom and pop landlords are being affected greatly, and they're selling their properties.
Thank you for that, and thank you for, we're happy that you are the president and that you can enlighten us a little bit what's going on in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pauls. And Daniel, we have one more speaker, and it's the mayor.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to Daniel, who I have a question for. Daniel, are you aware of the growth in the non-residential tax base that we are having as a city for the first time in many years? Speaking to kind of the point that Councillor McMeekin was raising, that we need to get those ratios figured out. In fact, in a couple weeks' time, we're actually turning sod at the fulfillment center for IKEA. We've had a number of major employers and businesses set up shop in Hamilton. Do you see that as part of the solution to our fiscal challenges?
Through the chair to our mayor, I believe I did actually read the news when IKEA was thinking about having a location in Hamilton, and I see that as a good thing.
Thank you. I would say that I would ask, though, that if you are aware that for the first time we've had a higher increase in the commercial industrial taxes that we're pulling in than the residential. Are you aware of that?
Through the chair to our mayor, I am aware that there are, I believe, higher taxes when it comes to multi-residential.
No, I'm talking about the difference between the increase in revenues that the city is able to realize from the property taxes at the residential, regardless of the class, as well versus the increase in revenues that the city is able to receive from the commercial industrial tax. And I say this because I don't think people are aware of that, and it's important for folks not only in this room but in Hamilton to be aware of that, because it speaks to the issue that Councillor McMeekin raised around the ratio of how much we can't run operating deficits. Just by the way, we can't run operating deficits. That's not something. So the term deficit, when it comes to our city's operating budget, is actually not accurate. So just for your information. But what I'm trying to get at is, in Toronto, which is often used as an example in terms of the difference between property tax costs for a house of similar value in Toronto, for example, in Hamilton. In Toronto, it's about 50-50. 50% of their revenue to pay for their operating budget comes from commercial industrial and 50% from residential. That's a healthy ratio. Overall, I think and I can be corrected by any of the folks, including yourself, if I'm misspeaking in this regard. My understanding is overall, a healthy ratio is 60-40. 60 residential, 40 commercial industrial. Our revenue mix for property taxes is 86% residential and only 14% commercial industrial. So it's an unhealthy ratio. So one of the things that this council is trying to do is attract more commercial and industrial investment to be able to try to deal with one of the structural problems that we have in terms of our revenue streams. Were you aware of any of those pieces?
Through the chair to our mayor, what I am aware and what I can say is there is a lot of commercial investments in the city of Hamilton. We did have Norm Schlehan from the Economic Development was a guest speaker at one of our dinner meetings last year and spoke about the many projects. And I do see that as a very good thing for Hamilton, but presently it is very, very concerning on the residential side where people are starting to feel very, very unsafe in the city. And that has to be addressed immediately.
And can that be addressed without any financing? Like, how do you address these kinds of challenges without investing in the solutions? Can you give us any ideas?
Spending issue.
Right, through
Order, please. Thank
through
you.
the chair to our mayor, as mentioned, there was an article yesterday where MPP Donna Skelly mentioned to really show how the money is being spent, and then they will consider.
Well, I thank you for that, and
granting more money.
I did see that article, and I'll be speaking actually to the Standing Committee on Finance in their budget consultations tomorrow, and that I'm looking forward to that. One of the things I think that needs to be reiterated again, it comes from the conversation that Councillor McMeekin was having with Mike, with
Mike.
West End Home Builders representative. And that is that the tools, the financial tools that exist at the provincial order of government are massive. When it comes to income redistribution, housing, supports for people who are living on the streets, which nobody wants to see, including myself and nobody around this table, those kinds of fiscal resources factually belong at the provincial order of government. They don't belong on the property tax base. I think everybody in this room agrees with that. They don't belong on property taxes. And so the question for you is, did you realize that that is in fact the case? That the property tax base should not have any of these dollars on it, and in fact it's the provincial government's responsibility legislatively, structurally as the way our country operates overall, the provincial order of government has that responsibility and they have the money. And so my question to you is, have you ever asked the provincial government why they think that the property taxpayers of Ontario should be paying, or the property taxpayers of any given province for that matter?
Through the chair to Councillor Mayor, I am a resident of Hamilton. I think that question you would have to ask provincial.
I'll be doing that. Thank you. I appreciate your candor there, because that's exactly one of the questions I will be asking on behalf of the council, but on behalf of the City of Hamilton residents and all of the people in this chamber today and folks who are watching, because that's the crux of the matter, respectfully. Thanks very much.
And thank you, Mayor. Daniel, for the second time, thanks for your delegation, and you may take a seat. Oh, sorry. Stay here. We've just had a late addition. Councillor M. Wilson, please have your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your delegation and for participating today. I just wanted to maybe reframe, if I could, just so I understand your answer. And I'll pose the question this way. Were you aware that long-term care, social housing, land ambulance, and over 30%, I believe, of public health is paid for from property taxes in Ontario, and that we are the only province in the Federation to demand that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, what I am aware of is last year for 2024, budget was passed at 5.79%, where the city collected about 2.4 or probably 2.6
That wasn't my question,
billion.
respectfully. Are you
And
aware
this
that land,
year-
are you
this
aware,
year,
delegate?
It
Are
is
you
said that
aware-
it's projected to increase 6.9%, which is much more than last year. And I believe this council has the powers to allocate those funds accordingly.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. So I'm going to take the answer to be no, you are not aware that the province of Ontario is unique in the Federation of requiring municipalities to pay for social housing, long-term care, land ambulance, and a significant portion of public health. Thank you.
Daniel, do you have an answer or last comment?
Through the chair, no comment.
Okay, Daniel, listen, so for the third time, thank you for coming to here today and sharing your information.
Thank you very much.
Order, please. When I used to be a teacher, I'd put my hand up and the class would just go silent because they know they'd miss out on recess time.